who always profess how you're defending our democracy. You're the ones undermining our democracy.
The highest court in the land cannot have the lowest standard of ethics in the government.
This is the fight you want. You're going to get it.
Democrats are looking to hold the highest court in the land responsible for its actions. This week, the Senate Judiciary Committee is expected to vote to subpoena Republican mega donors such as Harlan Crow and judicial activist Leonard Leo, who have long advocated for and successfully helped install conservative justices on the Supreme Court. The subpoenas follow a string of bombshell reports from ProPublica on Justice Clarence Thomas and Justice Samuel Alito and their acceptance of lavish gifts and trips from billionaire Republican donors. Joining me now, Rhode Island Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. He's chair of the Senate Budget Committee and a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator Whitehouse, thank you for coming to the Sunday show. Both Leonard Leo and Harlan Crow have already come out with statements denouncing the possibility of the committee issuing them subpoenas. How will you go about enforcing those subpoenas once they're issued?
Well, we're moving forward with the investigation one step at a time. The first step next Thursday is to vote for the subpoenas. Once the subpoenas are in place, they are a legal command to these individuals to come forward and provide the documents and answer the questions that we have asked for. If they refuse, we have a number of options, and we'll be making a decision as a committee about which option to pursue. But I would note that the argument that they have made, which is that it is unconstitutional for us to ask these questions, is a ridiculous argument by any measure. This is a question of disclosure by justices of gifts, which must be done under a law that Congress passed. And if the gifts are big enough, recusal by justices under a law that Congress passed. And the Judicial Conference, which implements the disclosure and the recusal law, is a body that Congress has created. So they're going forward with the fanciful notion that Congress can't inquire into how a body that it created is implementing laws that it passed. It makes no sense.
Senator, you just mentioned a moment ago that there are a number of options available to the committee if Harlan Crow and Leonard Leo do not comply with the subpoena. Could you enumerate one, two, or three of them?
Well, one is to go directly to the floor and seek a decision from the floor ordering enforcement. If we do that, it likely runs into the 60-vote cloture problem. And the Republicans have, not surprisingly, rallied around the big Republican donor billionaires who are behind the gift scheme and so much else. So that's a hard way to go. But it's worth having the fight, and it's worth exposing their arguments to the light of day. There are other ways that include the prospect of, for instance, the Department of Justice moving to enforce the subpoena on its own.
Chief Justice John Roberts could enact a code of conduct today. And three justices, Kagan, Kavanaugh, and Coney Barrett, have publicly stated that the court should adopt a code of ethics. So what's Justice Roberts waiting for?
I really don't know. I suspect that he's hoping that he can generate unanimity among his fellow justices on a method for enforcing the code of ethics. And I doubt he's going to get that because, frankly, Justices Alito and Thomas are going to be a continuing problem because their hands are so deeply in the cookie jar, it's hard for them to face any kind of scrutiny. And that means he'd have to find a way to perhaps have a vote the way they do in other cases. I mean, they took away women's rights to bodily autonomy by a less than complete vote. So why not just have a proper vote? I suspect it would be 7-2, but he could do that. The other way he could do it is he's the chair of the Judicial Conference, and the Judicial Conference has the ability to set rules. Indeed, it has been the oversight body on the disclosure issues when Harlan Crow first gave free yacht and jet travel to Justice Thomas a decade ago. That went through that procedure. So he has two ways to go, and I think he's planning to move. I don't think they can take the pressure any longer. The other judges are furious because they know perfectly well that what the justices are saying makes no sense.
Is there any thought of subpoenaing Ginny Thomas, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas?
I think, as I said, we're taking this investigation one step at a time, and the first step is to find out what is going on. There clearly was an unexplained payment directed to Mrs. Thomas by Leonard Leo through one of his front groups of $25,000. It is not clear that any services were ever rendered for that $25,000. And from the context, it looks like it wasn't the only time. So clearly there are questions to answer there. There are also questions about why he didn't recuse from the January 6th case. His spokespeople have said it's because he didn't know anything. But that's a fact question that deserves to be examined. And nobody has examined or even asked the Thomases that fact question.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to try to squeeze in two more questions. One, about the $14 billion Israel aid package that just passed the House, which we know would largely defund the IRS, no Ukraine aid. It's dead. It's dead on arrival in the Senate. The president's would veto it.
Senator Schumer said he won't call it up, and the president said he'd veto it.
Right. So can House Republicans and Senate Democrats reach a deal on aid for Israel and Ukraine in a manner that would also keep the government open?
I think so. We're working very hard to do that. I think that the program would be aid to Ukraine, aid to Israel, something to help support Taiwan, and investment in border security. I think that's the shape of the package that would succeed, and it would draw, I believe, significant bipartisan support and send a very strong option back to the Speaker to take up and pass and avoid shutdown.
Okay, and have you put back on your Judiciary Committee hat for one moment? Earlier in the show, we were talking about the lawsuits in Colorado and Minnesota, trying to basically remove Donald Trump from the ballot in 2024 in those states. What do you think the possibility? What do you think of those lawsuits? Do you support them, and do you think that if they go to the Supreme Court will side with the voters in Colorado and Minnesota?
I think it's a very real option. There's a reason that they've survived motions to dismiss, and that judges are hearing them and taking them seriously. There have been very, very thoughtful legal scholars who've written very clearly about how and why the 14th Amendment option is appropriate to use in this circumstance. And I think you end up down to the fact question of, was Donald Trump's conduct enough to make him an insurrectionist with regard to the relevant section of the 14th Amendment? And a good, sturdy, factual inquiry into that does no harm.
Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island, thank you very much for coming to the Sunday Show.